Okay, this is a Madeira Citrine, and I've had it in my inventory for quite a while. I'm going to cut it now, and this is a rather large piece, and let's see how much it weighs. Alright, our citrine weighs in at 87.9 carats. Opie, my wife, would like a large, oval-shaped citrine so she can design a unique piece of jewelry out of it. So I went through my inventory and I found this rather large Madeira citrine, which I had bought long ago. In fact, before I started keeping good records of my inventory. So I'm not sure where I picked this rough up from, or when, or for how much, but I suspect I picked it up years ago when I was buying rough in Brazil. I just can't be positive. And for all of you, I recommend you keep good records of where and when you buy your rough, how much you paid, and any other details about the rough that you can, and just jot it all down when you buy the rough. That way, when you do put it together and cut the gemstone and sell it, you have the whole story of the stone, and it's always better to have the story. But now since I have a stone, now I need a design. And I was looking through various gem fasting diagrams when I came across this design by Arya Akhavan called Piatt's Oval. So the design looks interesting. It looks fun. Fun to cut. Looks to me like the gemstone produced will look great. And it's by Arya, and I've cut other designs by Arya, and I can say that I always enjoy cutting his designs. Now, regarding this design, Arya said that he designed this cut for medium colored amethyst. So I'm thinking medium colored amethyst, Madeira citrine, it's going to work equally well as my thought process. But they're both from the quartz family and not too dark, so let's give it a try and find out how this design works on Madeira citrine. Okay, so we insert our gemstone into our spindle with the length side at the 72 and 24 teeth and the width at the 96 and the 48 tooth. Tighten up the dot retention screw, and we're ready to start cutting our gemstone. Okay, I've gone over our citrine with a 240 grit topper. I didn't need it. The topper works fine because I'll be using other laps and it'll clean things up quite a bit. So I've got our stone generally pre-formed. Now there is a little inclusion up here. So I've got to bring the top down a little bit to get rid of that internal fracture. And then the stone is not quite, there's still a part here I need to work out. I could either make the stone smaller or bring the top down. And in this case, I'm going to bring the top down. Actually, this is the bottom, the pavilion. But bring that down a distance of this much. Bring that down to here. And the only concern is that I need to make sure I've got enough space here for the upper half of the stone or the crown. And the way you make sure you've got enough rough is you look at your faceting diagram, and the C/W, which is the crown to width ratio, you just multiply the width of this, which is about 16 millimeters right now. You multiply that by your C to W ratio, and that gives you the number of millimeters, and then you just measure to make sure you've got enough on your, what is now the bottom half will be the crown, to cut the crown. And I believe I do, but if I didn't, then I just have to make it a little bit smaller, which would make this, as I make it smaller, this gets larger. So as of right now, I'm just going to go over the stone again, just to get rid of, mainly I want to work out this part of the stone and get rid of that, and the little inclusion up here, and then I'll see where we're at. Okay, I've got the stone preformed now with my 320 grit topper. So I'm going to use a 600 grit and clean things up a little bit and continue on. So These black marks, they're not part of the stone, they're just from my Sharpie, my permanent marker. And what I do is when I'm trying to walk a facet in, like this facet, this triangle facet here, is supposed to just touch here. So I'll make a mark with my Sharpie. It's easier to see it walking in. Sometimes it's a lot easier with the Sharpie, the contrast of the black and the orange, instead of trying to see the facet move. So don't mind those permanent markers. Permanent, they can be dissolved with alcohol. So the stone is just where I need it, and there's enough rough on the bottom half, which will be the crown. There is still the inclusion. Let me show that to you. There's still a bit of a fracture here, but it goes off at an angle to the side, and when I cut the crown of course is going to cut at an angle. So I think I'm going to be okay with that one. I think it's going to cut out, and that's pretty much all the internal issues I see with this stone. So let me continue to cut on it. Okay, some of you may be saying, why go over this with a 600 grit topper? Why not just go straight to something finer, a 1500 grit or a 3000 grit? So I think you're right. I don't know that I need to go to the 600. It's cleaning it up a little bit is all it's doing. This is the 320 and this is a 600 grit topper. You can see how it's cleaning up the facet and moving it a little bit. I don't need to move it the facets very far. Don't need to clean them up much. So I probably could skip this step and go straight to, well, I wouldn't go to a 1500 grit on quartz because of a thing called orange peel. I'd go to a 3000 grit next on a bat lap. So if you were wondering, do you need to go to the 600 or could you go straight to say a 3000 grit? I believe you could. I don't think it'd be any problem going to the 3000, but I'm going to go ahead and clean these up with the 600 grit and then go to my 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap. Okay, I've gone over the bottom part of the pavilion of our Madeira citrine with a 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap, and so now I'll go to final polish, and for this gemstone I'm going to use my ultra laps, cerium oxide impregnated, basically mylar, and I'll polish it up with that. This is what the ultra laps look like. Thin, disposable. They come with the oxide on one side, in this case cerium oxide. The shiny side goes down, it's more shiny than the other side. The dull side goes up, and the way you mount them or put them onto your master lap is you put a few drops of water on the master lap, you rotate it, just a little bit of water, and then you put the ultra lap on and tighten it up, and it won't go anywhere. Now, there are some people that don't like the ultra laps. They say it rounds the facets. Well, that all depends on how hard you push. If you don't push too hard, it won't round the facets. The other thing is, it does matter where you buy your ultra laps. Okay, I buy these from Ultratech, and I bought a batch recently from another lapidary store, and they were terrible. It's like they forgot to put the oxide on them, and I don't want to call out that company, but it was terrible, worthless. So it does matter where you buy them from. I'm sure there's other lapidary stores that sell an excellent product, but I will tell you, Ultratech's cerium oxide ultra laps work great. So on with polishing our gemstone. Alright, I finished polishing up our Madeira citrine and polished right up with my ultra lap, cerium oxide ultra lap, Spectra ultra lap. So now I'll transfer our stone, and I'm using 2-part epoxy to transfer my larger stones. For smaller stones I'm using UV activated super glue, which works great, but for the larger stones I'm still using the two-part epoxy. So I'll transfer this with the two-part epoxy so we can cut the upper half. Okay, so after you remove original dot from your stone, after you transfer the stone, you want to put it back into your spindle, and you want to make sure that it's properly aligned. So the girdle facets, that you can use any girdle facets to line it up, but the two here, top and the bottom, those were cut with the 91 and the 5 tooth and the 43 and the 53 tooth. So I'm going to use the 43 and the 53 tooth to align our stone. And the reason I'm going to use those two instead of the 91 and 5, which are down at the bottom, is because for my machine, it's set up where the dop retention screw is at the top when I'm at the 48, so the 43 and 53 will work out fine. I could adjust it, I could adjust my my 96 index gear and take it out, take it apart and adjust it, put this index dop retention screw anywhere I want it, but it's there, so that's where I'll just work it that way. So it is important when you have a couple of facets to use. So what I mean is, if it's a square, you only have to set up one facet, the 48 or the 96 or the 24 and 72. But in this case, at the top and bottom, there's two facets, not one at the 48. It's at the 43 and 53. And you want to make sure you get it right, because you want to check both, because if it is easy to get it wrong. So you want the this facet at the 53 and this facet at the 43. And it is possible, it is easy to say put this facet at the 53, line it up, see that everything works, and you're good to go, except that then when you go to the 43 and try to cut, you're going to be all messed up. Okay, so you want to check the 43 and the 53, and the way you check your alignment is on you have a precision block that Ultratech gives you, precision square block, and you put that on your flattest facet. In my case, my flattest facet is this ceramic lap, and I also bought another precision block of metal precision, so it's exactly correctly measured, just to get me a couple more inches off of the from having to look through the loop into the stone, because I'm going to set the stone up here, and I'm looking very close with my my loop, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so I put my index gear at the index tooth at the 45 tooth, or you could use the 51, and then the angle is a 90-degree angle, and then you raise and lower your mast until the stone touches that precision block, and you want it to break the plane of that block all along that facet at the same time. So you want to see light underneath the facet, all along the facet at the same time. If you were misaligned and you were to say lock your stone in like that, you would be flush with the precision stone here, precision block, but the other part of the facet would not be, would be still showing light, and you'd be misaligned, and you would cut your stone, your top wouldn't match your bottom, and your girdle would be a little bit off. So once you've got it set, you tighten the dop retention screw, check that you're still in alignment. Okay, now as I said earlier, this stone has two facets on each side, going to the center point. So you have to, it's both the 45 and the 51 teeth. So you got to check them both, because sometimes you'll put it wrong and you'll be way off. So we've set it at the 45 tooth. Now let's check the 51 tooth. So you put the tooth to the 51 and you check that angle. You check that facet as well, and you can see it breaking the plane of our precision block. Okay, I've gone over our gemstone with 600 grit. I just used a topper lap. Toppers are fine at the 600 grit level, but beyond that I would not use a topper. So I've gone over all the facets again. So now I'll use 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap and pre-polish everything, then we'll be ready to polish. I don't see any internal inclusions, fractures, or anything, so I think we've cut them all away. Turned out to be a nice stone, so let me continue to pre-polish the upper half of our stone. Alright, I finished polishing up our Madeira Citrine with ultra laps, or oxide ultra laps, which work great for quartz. So now I'm going to soak our stone, and I'm going to test out this Sackos premium paint and epoxy remover, which another faster told me was so much superior to acetone. We'll see. If it dissolves the two-part epoxy in 15 minutes, I will say it's a better product, and if not, then it's not better. But we'll see. Let's give it a try. And then we'll weigh our stone, measure it, and send it off to BOPIE. I really like the cut and the color of the stone so far, but let's see it once we get it off the dop. Okay, so this is our Sackos product, and it's a kind of a semi-paste, which means it's kind of thick. And so I'm going to put our, I use two-part epoxy to hold this stone together. For our smaller stones I cut, again, I'm using UV activated super glue, UV light activated, which works great. But for the larger stones, I'm still using two-part epoxy. I may switch that at some point, but let's go ahead and give this a try. It says fast, 15 minutes. We'll see. Into the epoxy remover it goes. We'll come back in a few minutes. Okay, so our gemstone's been sitting in our paint and epoxy remover for probably half an hour. It says 15 minutes, but don't know. So if this removes it in half an hour, that's pretty amazing compared to acetone, but we'll see. Nope. It's not ready to come off the dop. So I'll put it back into the paint and epoxy remover and continue to soak it till we remove the epoxy from this gemstone. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, it's been about an hour and 15 minutes instead of 15 minutes. Let's see if our premium paint and epoxy remover is done its job on our two-part epoxy. Sure is thick. No, hasn't done a thing yet, and I can still feel the epoxy on the side is still, of the dop is still well attached. So we'll soak it some more. So no, I'll continue to work this to figure out, at this point, if it's even better than acetone. If it would have taken care of that epoxy in 15 minutes, that would have been pretty amazing. But if it just is slightly better than acetone, then I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Okay, so let's try it after 2 hours of sitting in the premium paint and epoxy remover. So after 2 hours, no, nothing. Not even eaten the epoxy on the side of the DOP yet. We'll put it back in there some more, but I'm thinking whoever said this was a superior product, not for this purpose, not working, but we'll keep on trying. Okay, so it's been about 8 hours now. Same amount of time as about that I can expect acetone to take the epoxy off of the DOP. And it's still attached to the DOP. So this epoxy remover is definitely not better than acetone. I'll soak it overnight and see if that helps. Okay, it's been 24 hours, so really we're just trying to determine now if this is just not a good product at all or if this is a terrible product. So the stone is still attached to the DOP, but it may be able to just slight pressure to tug it off. No. It has eaten away some of the acetone that was on the side of the DOP, so there's really only a little acetone. It has eaten away the epoxy that was on the side of the stone, on the side of the DOP. There's just a little bit left. Hasn't eaten away. I suspect a little bit more time and this would, this premium paint and epoxy remover would dissolve the epoxy off of this stone, but I don't have any more time to wait, so I'm going to put the stone in my regular acetone wash and have the acetone finish the job that this epoxy remover couldn't do. This product's definitely not a recommendation, but it's up to you. Alright, so I've removed all the epoxy with my acetone, and so now we'll weigh and measure our gemstone, and we'll be able to send it off to BOPIE. Today I cut a large Madeira citrine gemstone into a unique oval design called Piatt's oval. The final gemstone is stunning, and it's due to Arya creating another great design. I also tested out a product which another very experienced cutter with years of experience had said was a superior product over acetone for removing two-part epoxy from gemstones and the DOP. The product by Jasco is called Semi-Paste Premium Paint and Epoxy Remover, and it claims to act fast in 15 minutes. I was surprised to find that the product was actually terrible for removing the two-part epoxy I use, especially since another cutter's been using this product with fantastic results for years. Doesn't make sense. I also tested this Jasco product on gemstones attached to DOPs with super glue, which I'm currently using to attach most of my stones, and I found that this Jasco product was also terrible at removing super glue from gemstones and DOPs. Terrible. So my results really confused me, so I went back to the cutter and we got together and finally figured this out. After a little bit of research, it turns out that the Jasco product has recently been reformulated, and the product now on the store shelves is the non-methylene chloride formula. So the cutter was correct, I'm sure. The product that he uses is probably very superior to acetone, but he's using the Jasco product before it was reformulated. The reformulated product is inferior to acetone, and to top it off, that the product's not as good as acetone, this product costs $60 a gallon. It's much more expensive than acetone. And no, I didn't buy a gallon of it, but you can go check the price of a gallon to give you an idea. So unless you'd like to pay a much higher price for a terrible product, I do not recommend this reformulated product. Now, if you can find the old product, I'm thinking garage sales or something like that, you may be able to find the old Jasco pre-reformulated product. I bet that old product that you find at a garage sale or somewhere, I suspect it's superior to removing two-part epoxy, superior over acetone. I bet it is. But the new reformulated product, no good. Now, about the Piatt's oval design, I do not recommend this design for a brand new cutter, but any cutter who's already cut a handful of stones should have no problem cutting this design. It's fun to cut, and it produces a beautiful gemstone. BOPIE was really surprised. So I would say to definitely add this design to your to-cut list. And if you do cut it, drop me a line on Facebook and let me know what you think of the design. And for sure, send me photos of the gemstone you cut, as photos are always welcome. And as always, happy fasting, everyone.